Hello. Okay, this is Letters to Ewan 55. The Causal State. A rant. Dear Ewan, I'm on the train from Manchester to London, and I'm going to Manchester because I try to go to one international pride every year. Last year I did Toronto, and I thought it was a great way to meet a city. Pride is like the best look at a city, even though it's the most positive. Last year, when I was in London, all the straight people said, "You should go to Brighton Pride." When I told gay people that, they would scoff and say, "Brighton? The best pride is Manchester." Other things I've heard about Manchester: it's blue collar. My parents were blue collar. And it's all tops in Manchester. No way that's true, but it'll be fun to find out for myself. The impulse is in me to rant, and I'm going to lean on it. When I think of you watching me be triggered, it feels good. I like how you still try to understand me when I'm ranting. I've already got you saying something to help me understand why I'm so pissed. It's something about how it's so sensitive to me. Ready, set, go. The causal state is much more interesting than the non dual state. I wrote some other stuff and deleted it because it didn't feel good to have that negativity hanging on the page, but it did feel good to type it out. In integral theory, they talk about four states that are independent of the stages of development: gross, subtle, causal, and non dual. Gross is what we feel and see and experience. Subtle is the water in which we swim. Non dual is for wimps. Nah, it's cool. I just always seem to poo poo what's popular and other nice, not nice things to say. And causal is for intrepid gangsters of love, and no one ever talks about it. I was helping Jordan and Sarah years ago lead a circling training. It was a pop up school they had created that was trying to integrate all the circling schools. I was an assistant and they were the leads. There was another assistant, and I was excited to play. The other assistant showed up late and was not playful. He was just kind of not with it. He would talk about his newish girlfriend, and it was so bland. I kept swooping in on him and was like, "Come on, dude, play with me. We're supposed to bring our energy." He didn't react. In an intuitive flash, thinking of his talk of his girlfriend, I said, "Did you start circling just to get laid?" It was like the wind got knocked out of him. He sunk. He looked up at me and said, "I think I did." All the color was gone, and he retreated further. I thought about it for a while. In my mind, I used to always think, I circle because I love it. I circle to help people, including me. I circle because circling is the best. These are the little there are these little belief islands on which our meaning stands. I imagined he had been standing on one of those. It's like standing on something that looks altruistic and good. I think that when I pointed out that his probably explicit belief island was actually a mundane, banal one, you just want to get laid, it caused him to drop into the causal state, or a baby version of it. The universe is meaningless. We keep a belief at the bottom that is safe and hard for ourselves or others to challenge. We step or push off from it to generate motion. Causality's hold on us is strong. To go forward, I push backwards. B needs A to precede it. I tell my students there are other ways to move than being a rocket. Pooping fire on the past is not the only way. Be a sailboat. We experience a taste of the meaninglessness when what we are standing on gets bumped out from underneath us. There's nothing wrong with circling to get laid. It makes perfect sense. It's kind of more human. Did that go too quick? The universe is inherently meaningless. The stars will not mourn our passing. We will be forgotten. Sitting here right now as I'm typing, I try on, I'm basically already forgotten. Strange synchronicity. I fell asleep while writing this. When I woke up, I realized I'm going to Manchester to meet a thick-necked British verse guy who will fuck my brains out. I'm really hurting from thinking about ALIFTIMTS. This thick-necked British guy was sitting next to me on the train, and we kept laughing at how he kept offering this Baby Bell cheese to his friend. He ended up giving me the rest of his sandwich and the cheese, and I passed on telling him how handsome he was to me. It's scarier here for some reason, imagining telling guys who I'm not sure are gay that they're handsome. I can feel my longing. Ugh, my head is buzzing. Self-loathing comes. Feeling how much of my life force is tied to whether I've found a one. Or is it self-loathing? Maybe it's just non-self-loathing. I can be here. The causal state is what the Hindus call the void. It's a kind of nowhere feeling. Nowhere to go, nowhere to be, nowhere to push off from because the bottom is gone. I've been here/there a lot. I spent so much time here that I started realizing it wasn't so bad. The sensation isn't yummy, but it's a lot like the rest of reality. The earth is basically in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere to go and no place to get to. So the causal state mirrors reality well. The last time I remembered entering this state in a big way was during an immersion where I was assisting. I was unknowingly thinking I was standing on, I care about people. And the leader looked at me with interesting eyes, like he was looking right through me. I realized in a flash that I was selling help to buy meaning. The ground of meaning I had been standing on disappeared. It was like my soul's power went out. Like a huge depression, I was engulfed in a horrible void. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't even muster that. I wanted to quit circling. There's some existentialist who wrote a book about reality melting into a gooey one thing. I thought it was cool, but nothing happened at the end. What happened for me, as all my meaning went away, was my circling training stepped up. I heard this automatic, nerdy little voice in my head. It was like a tape playing on repeat, and it sputtered in a cartoonish way. What's that like? It was surprising because it didn't feel like I thought it. It was like all the many years of a parrot practicing saying that perked up. What's that like? What's that like? What's that like? And I felt like ass, but I looked. I looked because there was nothing else. And I saw something wiggle in the deep void. In my mind's eye, it looked like a little invisible worm made of clear light. That's weird, right? And I was sure I wasn't making it up because the way I felt had none of that energy that feels like making stuff up. I watched the little worm wiggling and noticed that it was wiggling toward people. It wasn't trying to save them or give them anything. It just wanted to go closer to them. Is this love? I still felt gutted. Meaninglessness was all around. But a sense of okayness came to me that changed me in that moment and forever. It reminded me of 20 years before, when the Master placed her hands on me, and I felt love and thought, everyone needs to feel this. I cry a little rereading that for the edit. I practiced the relational arts because a moment I tried to quit, just a second, and love found me. It offered no exchange. I had nothing, and I still do. I have nothing. That existentialist who wrote that book about reality melting into a gooey one thing didn't go anywhere, just dissolution. It's become very clear to me that the mind can simulate dissolution, but the mind itself can never look past the point of dissolving. I've seen something there, and I can think of no other word for it than love, a connective motion toward others. It's not a currency. The universe is meaningless. There can be no bartering between infinite paupers, but there does seem to be something fundamental driving connection. My cosmology now is the universe is meaningless, but it sweats love. I don't like the universe is love because it doesn't describe well enough this sheer between meaninglessness and love. Love is what makes the meaninglessness okay. Love allows for islands of meaning to dissolve. It doesn't stop that process. Love synergizes truth. Love permits truth, but is fundamentally pre-existent of meaning. I asked Enlightened Guy, do Buddhists practice stillness so that when love wiggles, they'll know it wasn't their mind? He laughed excitedly. I've never heard anybody say it like that. My mind has been strangely clear on this trip in Europe. I noticed it and noticed that a part of me was worried I didn't know anything. I noticed that a part of me was questioning if I was prepared for what would come next. I've been soothing that. I've been trusting voids more. I'll get back to the causal state later because it's so important. But I'm glad I told you about this. As I was writing this, ALIFTIMTS replied to a message, "Have fun in Manchester, friend." I want to say it hurts, but it just cuts my legs a little. There's nausea, but also a sobriety. Friend? I thought we said we were lovers. I've seen that love is a real thing, pre-existent of meaning, and I take the cue to stay here and keep my head on a swivel. I can look around. I look around and my mind is still. A small warmth blossoms in me, and it's slightly more attached to existing than to any excitement about a man. The excitement in me about a man is like a dog inside the house I'm staying at that hasn't woken up yet. I tap the causal now, and you don't feel quite real, Ewan. You're not physically present. But have you ever held on to someone's shoulder when you're fixing your shoe? That's how I feel now with you in the distance. Mike.